Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh to Safairos. My group will be presenting about the comparison between ISO 40001, ISO 9001 and ISO 45001. The leader of the group is me, Amirul Azmi bin Hasim, and the group members is Nur Adlin binti Nur Hisam, Zulaika Emily binti Yusuf, Amir Haziq bin Hassan Basri, and Muhammad Arif Ashraf bin Ramlat. Clause 4. Context of organization. The first subclause is understanding the organization and its context. For each of the subclause, the organization shall determine the external and internal issues that are relevant to its purpose and strategic direction that affect its ability to achieve the intended outcome for the environmental, quality, and occupational health and safety management system. The second subclause is about understanding the needs and expectations of interested parties and workers. The organization shall determine the interested parties and its requirement of the interested parties and also to the workers that are relevant to the environmental, quality, and occupational health and safety management system. The next subclause is about determining the scope of each management system. The organization shall determine the boundaries and applicability of each management system to establish its scope. There are also several things that need to be considered, such as external and internal issues and its authority and ability to exercise control and influence the requirement of relevant interested parties, and take into account the plan or perform work-related activities. The last subclause is about the environmental management system, quality management system and its processes, and occupational health and safety management system. To achieve the intended outcomes of all these management systems, generally, the organization shall establish, implement, maintain, and continually improve all of these management systems, including the processes needed and their interaction in accordance with the requirement of the international standard. There are some additions for ISO 9001, which is suggested organization need to determine the input required and output expected sequence and interaction of these processes. The organization also need to maintain the documented information to support the operation of its processes and retain documented information to have confidence that their processes are being carried out as planned. Clause 5. Leadership. The first subclause is about leadership and commitment. For this subclause, the top management shall demonstrate leadership and commitment with respect to the environmental management system, quality management system, and occupational health and safety management system. For ISO 9001, there is addition under this subclause, which is customer focus. For customer focus, top management shall demonstrate the leadership and commitment with respect to the customer by ensuring that customer and applicable statutory and regulatory requirements are determined, understood, and consistently met. The risks and opportunities that can affect conformity of products and services and the ability to enhance the customer satisfaction are determined and addressed, and the focus on enhancing customer satisfaction is maintained. Next subclause is organization policy. For each of the management system, top management shall establish, implement, and maintain each policy. For these three ISO, the policy shall be maintained as documented information, communicated within the organization, and available to interested parties. For ISO 45001, the policy includes a commitment to provide a safe and healthy working condition for the prevention of work-related injury and ill health and is appropriate to the purpose, size, and context of the organization and to the specific nature of its occupational health and safety risks and occupational health and safety opportunities. Each of these policies provide a framework for setting each management system objective. The next subclause is organizational roles, responsibilities, and authorities. For each ISO, top management shall ensure the responsibilities and authorities for relevant role are assigned and communicated within the organization, and each management system, which is environmental, quality, and occupational health and safety management system, conform to the requirement of this international standard and reporting on the performance of each international standard. For ISO 45001, there is one more subclause, which is consultation and participation of workers. The organization shall establish, implement, and maintain processes for consultation and participation of workers at all applicable levels and functions, and where there exists workers' representative in the development, planning, implementation, performance evaluation, and action for improvement of the occupational health and safety management system.
Assalamualaikum, my name is Muhammad Arif and I will present the comparison between ISO for Clause 6 Planning. Clause 6.1 Action to address risk and opportunity. Clause 6.1.1 General guideline for all these three of ISO is almost same as the organization shall consider the issue referred to in Clause 4.1, requirement referred to in Clause 4.2, and the scope of its management system during planning. Although ISO 45001 have an additional clause of 4.3 included. It need to give the assurance that EMS, QMS, OHS management system can achieve its intended outcome, prevent or reduce undesired effect, and achieve continual improvement. In ISO 40001, the organization should determine the risk and opportunity related to its environmental aspects and compliance obligation. And as for ISO 40001, the organization should determine the risk and opportunity by taking into account the hazard, OHS risk and other risks, legal requirement and other requirement. ISO 40001 Clause 6.1.2 states that organization should determine the environmental aspect of its activity, product and service it can control, and thus that it can influence and their associated environmental impact by considering a life cycle perspective. In Clause 6.1.2 ISO 9001, organization should plan action to address this risk and opportunity by integrate and implement the action into its QMS process and evaluate the effectiveness. Clause 6.1.2 in ISO 45001 is more elaborate in terms of hazard identification and assessment of risk and opportunity. Clause 6.1.2.1 states that organizations shall establish, implement and maintain a process for hazard identification that is ongoing and proactive. Clause 6.1.2.2 OHS risk from the identified hazard. Clause 6.1.2.3 about OHS opportunity to enhance OHS performance. Clause 6.1.3 for both ISO 40001 and ISO 45001 is the same, but ISO 40001 is about compliance obligation, while ISO 45001 is about legal requirement. Clause 6.1.4 ISO 40001 is to plan an action to address its significant environmental aspect and its compliance obligation by integrate and implement the action into its EMS process. Then evaluate the effectiveness of this action. ISO 45001 Clause 6.1.4 states that the organization shall plan to take action to address this risk and opportunity, legal requirement and other requirement, prepare for and respond to emergency. Clause 6.2.1 of all three ISO is the same. This clause about establishing objectives at relevant function, level and processes needed for their respective management system. The objectives should consistent with the policy, measurable, monitor, communicated, and update as appropriate. Clause 6.2.2 ISO 9001 states that organization should determine what will be done, what resource will be required, who will be responsible, when it will be complete, and how the result will be evaluated. Clause 6.2.2 for ISO 40001 and ISO 45001 is the same as ISO 9001, but also state that organization shall consider how action to achieve its environmental or OHS objective can be integrated into the organization business process. Clause 6.3 ISO 9001 is about when the organization determines the need for change to the quality management system. The change shall be carried out in a planned manner as referred to Clause 4.4.
Assalamualaikum and good day. My name is Zulaika Emily, and in this video presentation, I will do a brief explanation on the subclause 7, which is support. For the subclause of clause 7, which is 7.1, ISO 14001 and ISO 45001 only has one subclause under 7.1, which is ISO 14001 said that the organization shall determine and provide the resources needed for the establishment, implementation, maintenance, and continual improvement of the environmental management system. In the ISO 45001, 7.1 resources subclause said that the organization shall determine and provide the resources needed for the establishment, implementation, maintenance, and continual improvement of the OH&S management system. And for the ISO 9001, there is 6 subclauses under the subclause 7.1, which is general, people, infrastructure, environment for the operation of process, monitoring and measuring resources, general, measurement, traceability, and organizational knowledge. For the subclause 7.2, which is competence, all the 3 ISO standards have 4 rules under the subclause of 7.2. For ISO 14001, it is more focusing to the effects of environmental performance. For ISO 9001, it's more focusing to the quality management system. And for ISO 45001, it's focusing on the effects of its OH&S performance. Moving to the subclause 7.3, which is awareness. For ISO 14001, it said that the organization shall ensure that persons doing work under the organization's control are aware of, first, the environmental policy, second, the significant environmental aspects and related actual or potential environmental impacts associated with that work, third is their contribution to the effectiveness of the environmental management system, including the benefits of enhanced environmental performance. In ISO 9001 standard, the organization shall ensure that persons doing work under the organization's control are aware of, first, the quality policy, second, the relevant quality objectives, third, their contributions to the effectiveness of the quality management system, including the benefits of improved performance. In the ISO 45001, workers shall be made aware of, first, the OH&S policy and OH&S objectives, second, their contribution to the effectiveness of the OH&S management system, including the benefits of improved OH&S performance, third, the implication of and potential consequences and of not conforming to the OH&S management system requirements. There are 4 points under the subclause 7.3 in both ISO 14001 and ISO 9001 standard, while there are 6 points under the subclause 7.3 in ISO 45001. But I only mentioned the 3 of them from all the ISO standard. For subclause 7.4, which is communication, both ISO 14001 and ISO 45001, the subclause 7.4 are divided into another 3 subclauses, which is 7.4.1 general, 7.4.2 internal communication, and 7.4.3 external communication. While in ISO 9001 standard, there are no specific division of 7.4 subclauses. The last subclause is 7.5, documented information. They are divided into 3 other subclauses for all of the 3 ISO standard. First is 7.5.1, which is general, 7.5.2 creating and updating, and 7.5.3 is control of documented information.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Amir Hazid bin Hassan Basri, and today I'm going to be presenting about clause 8, which is operation. In the subclause 8.1, which is operational planning and control, the ISO 14001 says that the organization shall establish, implement, control and maintain the processes to comply the environmental management system requirement and to implement action. For ISO 9001, organization shall plan, implement and control the processes needed to meet the requirements for the provision of product and services and to implement the action. And for ISO 45001, the organization shall plan, implement, control and maintain the processes needed to meet the occupational health and safety management system requirements and to implement action in Class 6. Each of these ISOs focuses on three different things, which is for ISO 14001 is environmental management system, for ISO 9001 it is product and services, and for ISO 45001 occupational health and safety. So the ISO 45001 has an additional subclasses under 8.1, which is 8.1.2 eliminating hazards and reducing occupational health and safety risks, 8.1.3 management of change, 8.1.4 procurement, and under the procurement we have other subclasses which is general, contractors and outsourcing. For 8.2, both of ISO 14001 and ISO 45001 have emergency preparedness and response, which is the organization shall establish, implement and maintain the processes needed to prepare for response to emergency situation, and the organization shall maintain documented information to the extent that confidence achieved for the processes to be carried out as planned. But for ISO 9001, 8.2 is requirement for product and services. So under 8.2 we have other subclasses, which is 8.2.1 customer communication, 8.2.2 determining the requirement for product and services, which when determining the requirements for the product and services to be offered for customers, the organization shall ensure that requirements for product and services are defined and meet claim for product and services offered. Under the subclass of 8.2, we also have 8.2.3, which is review of the requirements for product and services, and 8.2.4 changes to requirements for product and services, which for 8.2.4 it says that the organization shall ensure relevant documented information is amended and the relevant persons are made aware of the change requirement when product and services requirement are changed. Moving on, for ISO 9001, it has additional subclasses, which is from 8.3 until 8.7. For 8.3, which is design and development of products and services, it has 6 other subclasses. For 8.3.1 general, it says that the organization shall establish, implement and maintain an appropriate design and development process to ensure the subsequent provision of products and services. Other subclasses is design and development planning, design and development input, design and development control, design and development outputs, and the last one is design and development changes. For ISO 9001, 8.4 is control of externally provided processes, product and services. Under 8.4.1, where organizations shall ensure that externally provided processes, product and services conform to requirements and shall determine the controls to be applied to externally provided processes, product and services. The other subclasses are 8.4.2 type and extent of control, and 8.4.3 information for external providers. For ISO 9001, under the subclass of 8.5, which is production and service provision, is 8.5.1, which is control of production and service provision, where organization shall implement production and service provision under control condition. 8.5.2 is identification and traceability, which is the organization shall use suitable means to identify necessary outputs to ensure the conformity of products and services. And other subclasses are 8.5.3, which is property belonging to customers or external providers, 8.5.4 preservation, 8.5.5 post-delivery activities, and 8.5.6, which is control of changes. The last two subclasses for ISO 9001 are 8.6 and 8.7. So 8.6 is release of product and services, where the organization shall implement plan arrangement at appropriate stages to verify that the product and service requirement have been met. So 8.7 is control of non-conforming outputs. So there are two subclasses under 8.7, which is 8.7.1, where the organization shall ensure outputs that do not conform requirement are identified and controlled to prevent unintended use or delivery, and 8.7.2, where the organization shall retain documented information that describe the nonconformity.
Assalamualaikum, my name is Nur Adlimitun Hisham. Today I'm going to talk about Clause 9 and Clause 10. In Clause 9, all three ISO have the same meaning for 9.1. For ISO 14001 and ISO 9001, 9.1.1 have the same meaning. The organization shall monitor and ensure valid results and evaluate its environmental performance. ISO 14001, the 9.1.2 evaluation of compliance, explain that the organization establish and evaluate fulfillment of its compliance and also a documented information needed as evidence of the compliance. ISO 9001, 9.1.2 customer satisfaction. It is stated that the organization shall monitor customer perception, either it fulfill their needs and also expectation. In 9.1.3, analysis and evaluation, the organization analyze and evaluate data and information that arise. ISO 45001, the general explain that the same thing like other ISO, only it is more focused to analysis performance by evaluate OSH performance and the effectiveness. 9.1.2, it is establish, implement and maintain process for evaluating compliance. And also it retain the documented information needed as the evidence. In 9.2, internal audit, all three ISO have the same requirement. In 9.2.1 for ISO 14001 and ISO 9001, it conduct internal audits to provide information whether the system follow the requirements or not. In 9.2.2, it explain how organization plan and also maintain their audit program and also retain documented information as evidence. For ISO 45001, it also have the same explanation as the other ISO. It is only focused on the OSH system management. In 9.3, management view, ISO 14001 and ISO 45001 have the same meaning. The top management shall review the organizational environment management system. While for ISO 45001, it focuses on OSH management system. ISO 9001 also have the same meaning for 9.3.1, 9.3.2 and 9.3.3, it major on review inputs and also outputs. The management shall review status action and decisions and also action related to changes of quality management. In the end, all ISO must retain documented information as evidence. In general, ISO 14001, ISO 9001 and also ISO 45001 have similar meaning. The organization shall determine opportunities and improvement to achieve intended outcomes. The difference was only in ISO 45001 where the system is focused on OSH management system. 10.2 is about non-conformity and corrective action. For ISO 14001, one of the key purposes are to evaluate the need for action to eliminate the causes. ISO 9001, 10.2.1, organization shall react to non-conformity, evaluate the need for action, and make changes to the quality system. On 10.2.2, they shall retain documented information as evidence of the result. ISO 45001, the organization shall react in timely manner, evaluate and review existing assessment of OSH risks, and also make changes to the management system. They are also shall retain documented information as evidence. In 10.3, continual improvement, ISO 14001 and also ISO 9001 both have the same meaning. The organization shall improve the suitability and also effectiveness to enhance environmental performance. ISO 45001, it is to improve the effectiveness of OSH management system by enhance OSH performance, promoting participants like workers for improvement, and also retaining documented information as evidence.